In this video, I want to share a story that I heard from another believer and give encouragement and just express my gratitude. I feel extremely blessed to have met real believers and people that I feel are genuine. Because just coming from my perspective, maybe a lot of you will be able to connect from this. My introduction to Christianity was very fringe. I didn't have a friend who was Christian. Hey, do you want to learn about Jesus? Hey, come to my church. It wasn't like that at all. It was a very personal journey, and I decided for myself that the truth was the most important thing, and that God, I believe, was leading me in the right direction to finally open up the Bible and see, hey, what's this all about? And then I realized, yeah, this is all true. I have nothing to say other than, yes, this is true. So just something that I was thinking about the other day when people were sharing their stories of how they came to Jesus. I know I've told my story on this channel a lot of times before. I mean, I basically just gave you the short version. And when people were telling them their stories, it was just another example that clicks with me that this is right. This is it. This is the truth. This all makes sense to me. It makes sense that this is how God would work. And that's in the diversity of his people. And I know diversity is like this trigger word these days, but it makes sense to me that God's people are diverse. Anybody should be allowed salvation. That makes sense to me. You shouldn't have to look a certain way, dress a certain way, be born a certain way in order to be saved. And so I just want to tell another person's story, a couple personal stories that I heard last night in Bible study. Seems like Wednesdays are really common for Bible studies. And yeah, encouragement to people that have found Jesus through conspiracy. You can do normie Christian stuff and you'll be surprised at the amount of stuff that you'll be able to get from that. And it is almost kind of a pride thing. I'm going to throw that out there, that if you might maybe think that you're too good to go to a church or something, I guess I'll say, so many wolves in sheep's clothing out there. I feel extremely blessed to be able to find people that I do feel are genuine in their love for Jesus. And sure, they might think that the earth is a ball, but I don't feel like they know it's flat and they're telling the congregation that it's a ball or something like that. Or because that is a thing. That really is a thing. That there will be people out there that you'll know that they're saying the word planet, but they know it's not a planet. And I hear a lot of horror stories out there of people going to a church and then it turns out that they're a bunch of wackos. And I think that this all just is very biblical, that we're in end times. This is the end of the world as we know it. Spiritual warfare is real. Demons are going to attack in places like that where people are most vulnerable. They want to turn people off to the truth. And so that's why very demonic people get involved in churches and turn people off. And they make it culty. They make it about the cult and not about salvation through Jesus Christ. So obviously use your discernment, but I've just got a lot out of integrating myself into normie life. I'm now a dad, so I feel a responsibility to. I can't force my children to think everything that I think and do. I need to integrate into normal life in some capacity because I can't. My life circumstances are such that I can't go be a hermit somewhere, which I would love, but those aren't the cards I was dealt. If I could do it all over again, I probably would do that, but hey, here we are. I'm not complaining. Let me read this. John chapter 3, verses 7 and 8. Beautiful verses. I think that too often Eastern philosophies people think of them as, oh, so smart, you have these great things to ponder. I think KJV is so beautifully poetic and has amazing things to ponder. So here, marvel not that I say unto thee, ye must be born again. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh and whither it goeth. So is everyone that is born of the Spirit. And this verse just reminds me how diverse God's people are, how that clicks with me. Let me get into the stories and why I think this. So last night at Bible study, we were talking about how we came to Jesus. And I'm going to share in detail one man's story about how he came to Jesus because it's amazing. And I'm not a great storyteller. He's actually a really good storyteller. He's really big talker, so I'm just going to tell you the facts. So he woke up from bed one night and there was a shining orb. He said it was big, like a big orb at his bed up. And so this is at normie church. I go to a completely normie church, and right off the bat, I'm so interested in this supernatural event. So an encouragement to people who found Jesus through conspiracy. There are real Christians out there that talk about supernatural stuff all the time. Christians, like I didn't used to think this about Christian people, and maybe where I grew up, it was a lot more fake, plasticky Christians, but real, genuine Christians out there, even if they're going to a 501c3 church, there's people out there that have witnessed the supernatural and they believe it just like I believe it, and so you'll be able to make that connection. They may think that they're on a spinny ball. That doesn't stop them from having spiritual experiences or having supernatural experiences. So let me tell this guy's story. I just wanted to get that out there. So he woke up from bed one night and saw a bright orb hovering over his bed at the foot of the bed, and he said it was large, like bigger than a basketball. And I live in Oregon. He reached over his bedstand and grabbed a gun and turned the light on the orb, and then he got up and turned the lights on in the room, and then he turned the lights off and he couldn't see for a little bit, because you know when you turn on bright lights and it's been dark and then you can't see. So then the orb wasn't there after the lights got turned back off, and he looked over to his clock, his like digital alarm clock, to see what time it was. And he said when he looked at his alarm clock, the alarm clock spelled out Jesus. So I can imagine, you know, the way the numbers are displayed in a digital alarm clock. He said he looked at his alarm clock and it spelled out Jesus. And he obviously had to check, blink his eyes, wait, what's really going on? And when, you know, things readjusted and he looked back at the clock, it was 3:33 a.m. And so this guy could you just imagine when I was hearing the story? I was like, wow, okay, this is so real. So of course I believe him. 3:33 a.m. Yes, I 100% believe that an alarm clock could display Jesus in a supernatural event like that. He says he still has the alarm clock, so I also believe that. You would definitely keep that after an event like that. And so he went and told his friends about it, etc., etc. But I just connected so much with that part because I found Jesus through this sort of finding significance in numbers and becoming interested in the supernatural. And here's some normie guy just works a regular, you know, working with your hands type job in Oregon and, you know, nowhere special, and having a supernatural event like that I can connect with. And so, and his wife, just to give another example, his wife from another country where most people are not religious, how did she come to Jesus? She came to Jesus through just going to church and loving the music. And that's enough. Nobody's better than anybody else. That's enough. If you go to a Christian church and you feel it, you feel the Spirit, that's enough. That person's no worse off or better off than me. And so, yeah, that was, I just loved the diversity, and it all makes sense. That God can connect with each individual in a very personal way, and not one way has to be better than the other or anything like that. Because I appreciated his wife's tale too, that she just started going to church one day and she really felt the music and she loved it, and that's enough to bring some people to Jesus, and it's valid, totally valid. And see, what I would say about that is, well, go start reading the Bible and see how much the Bible talks about music. Psalms were all about music. So God clearly works through music. Music is magic. So those are the things that I would talk about. And how the devil uses music, prince of the power of the air. So I connect with that. I think that's very valid to be brought to Jesus through worship music. What else? Oh yeah, one more thing. And then just another story was shared about the numerology kind of got brought up. Not really. Nobody said gematria. Nobody really said numerology. But then somebody else was like, oh, my wife when she was really young, she made a pact when 9/11 happened that whenever she saw 9/11 on a digital display, she would make a prayer for those families. And of course, okay, so I personally believe 9/11 is a psyop. I don't think that there are any grieving families out there that need to be prayed for personally, but I see the goodness in that. And what I see there is that they understood somehow subconsciously the gematria importance of 9/11. So to me, I see a pure heart there, a good heart, somebody that loves people, and they made this pact when they were a child. I mean, there's even stuff that you could say about that, like how that, because I remember when I was young, I would talk to God, even though my parents weren't religious at all. And so just the thought of a 6-year-old making a pact like that with God, and very, very moving to me. And so, yeah, I just connect with that. To me, the way that I just see that is that somehow this child was able to subconsciously understand the numerological significance of the number 9/11, because that was obviously a big part of the psyop, is the numbers themselves, 9/11. Okay, so that's it for this video. I guess I'll also say I've met people through Christian things that know NASA's fake, but on the same page of that, every time I go to certain Christian events, I'll see people with NASA hats on and NASA gear, and I just think they're duped. I think that some of it is like a cognitive dissonance. They have to love the outer space stuff because they don't want to admit it doesn't make sense. But that's not my battle to be had. I'm done with that. But they have other stuff that they can teach us and share us, and Jesus is enough. So that's it for this video. God bless everyone.